extra 2 minutes tell, so everything says offline at the moment. Hey, Henry, do you see anything on any channels?
I see you on
Twitch is
Glenside.
up.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, YouTube's up.
My Restream console says everything's offline.
Yep, YouTube's up.
They lie.
Okay, they lie. First world problems. Hey there. This is Mark from the CoCo Nation, and I'm the stream engineer for today. Our third segment here is Peter Cetinski, who's showing his Model 10, which I understand is a predecessor to the Model 2 from Radio Shack. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, anyway, it looks like we have a stream, even though it doesn't show what's going on here. And Henry, I trust Henry, so just go for it. You got 55 minutes here to show it off. And if you really ought to come back and do this again, we've been dabbling the last couple of years with something called CoCo Tech, which we're kind of showing stuff off. And I'm okay with, hey, I get to run it. So, it's like if we want to bring on a Model 10 again and show some more stuff off. Usually I've been doing Tuesday afternoons or evenings just because it fits better with our live stream for the game on stuff on Thursday and the show on Saturday. But anyway, I'll invite you back. So the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me into your CoCo world here. But I know this retro show is about old Tandy gear, so I'm very happy to present my Tandy 10.
We're glad to have you.
Yep. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Peter Cetinski. I'm one of the hosts of the TRS-80 Trash Talk podcast and the TRS-80 Trash Talk live YouTube show that we're still doing. We stopped doing the podcast a couple years ago, but now we kind of focus mostly on the live YouTube show. We do cover all the Tandy computers, but we do tend to focus on the Z80 systems and the business systems, which are a big interest of mine. Particularly for me, especially the big 8-inch floppy systems like the Model 2 and the Model 12. But we talk CoCo too, so everyone here is welcome to join us on those shows as well. So let's talk about the Tandy 10. Tandy 10 is a very rare computer that I've been searching for many years, ever since I started in the hobby 10 years ago. And I did recently acquire one the past year, so I'm learning a lot about it, and I'm trying to get the word out. One of the reasons I went ahead and bought it was because I want to share it with everyone. It came from a collector who passed away, unfortunately, but he had it socked away, and nobody had ever seen it. Nobody even knew it existed. So I want to share it with the world. I plan on taking it eventually to VCFs and Tandy Assembly, so everybody can enjoy it. I think it's important, though, when we talk about the Tandy 10, we have to do a little bit of a history lesson because most people really don't know about the time period that this computer was sold in Tandy history. So if we go back to 1976, early 77, a lot of people know the story of Don French, how he basically was like one of the fathers of the Model 1. And now him and John Roach went out to California, found Steve Leininger out there, brought him back to Radio Shack, and they designed the Model 1 76, 77. And then the TRS-80 took off, and everything that came after that, the CoCo, the Model 3, the Model 2. So that story is fairly well known. But what was also happening at that time, like 76, 77, is there was a division of Tandy called Tandy Computers that was created. Okay. And Tandy Computers was a big proponent of Tandy Computers was Don French as well. So while he was working to get Steve Leininger out and having Radio Shack build his own computer, he was also working on building out Tandy Computers. And he had a boss, John Ratliff, who was really into it. John Roach was into it. And John Ratliff reported directly to Charles Tandy. And Charles Tandy was a big proponent of it as well. And Charles Tandy, what he wanted to do was he wanted to have this Tandy computer line to focus on like the business side of selling computers, and then have the Radio Shack side work like on the home side of home computing, like with the Model 1 at that time. So what they did is they opened up a prototype Tandy computer store at the Tandy Center in Fort Worth. It was the only Tandy computer store that ever opened because it closed within about a year or two after that. And what they did was it was partially an experiment because Tandy was just getting into the world of computers. and they needed to understand how to market a computer, what the market was like, what people were interested in buying. So what they did with Tandy Computers is they essentially created at Fort Worth a version of the Byte Shop that everybody's very familiar with. The Byte Shop sold all of the homebrew computers of the time, the kit computers, the Altairs, the MZIs, the Sols. And Tandy was selling all of those computers right there at the Tandy Center, at the Tandy Computer Store. And they also had a catalog. I'm going to share that catalog here so we can have a point of reference. And everybody should see this. So this was the 1978 Tandy Computers catalog. This is not Radio Shack. This is Tandy Computers. And interesting thing here, you can see the logo up there on the TC logo. So that's very familiar to TRS-80 fans because you'll see that logo in future computers. Like you'll see it on the Model 3 and the Model 4 Tristos boot screens. There, it's sort of alluded to that it stands for Tandy Corporation. But this logo was actually came out and stood for Tandy Computers back in '78. So if you just peruse through the catalog, you'll see they were selling all of the computers, the MZIs, right, the Vector, all the S100 systems of the time. They had any computer that was available at the time. They had the MZI, various MZIs, parts for building them, printers. I've talked to some of the people that were involved at the time, and they told me they had at least one of all of these computers in inventory at the time in Fort Worth. All the books and the manuals. Now remember, this is '78. This is before, the Radio Shack computer centers really came about. So this was all Tandy computers. And you can see, right, they have all these expensive computers. They're all $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, right? But all the way at the end, what do they have on the back page? The TRS-80 the Model 1 for $600, complete system. So part of, it was this experiment to understand how the market works, but they were also trying to sell their computers, right? So this is the last thing the person going through the catalog would see. It's at least half the price than all the other computers. They're probably going to go and buy this one, right? So the Radio Shack guys got this in the catalog as well. So they had the computers, they sold the computers, they had all the computers that were in this catalog. At the same time that this is happening, there's a computer called Applied Digital Data Systems. They were selling these computers. It started out as the System 50, and then that morphed into the System 70. So this is, I think System 50 came out maybe like late '75, '76. Then they had the System 70 in around '77. And this is another ad for the System 70. You'll see these ads if you look at the computer magazines of the day, the general computer magazines. Ads was primarily a terminal manufacturer. They were a very popular terminal manufacturer and seller. They're based in Long Island, near me here in New York. And this was their first foray into building a turnkey business computer system. I have a few more ads here. This is actually from some Microsoft documentation. It's showing the System 70. So it's showing that this system had some traction at the time that Microsoft was actually developing software for it. A few more System 70 advertisements. All right. So, I've talked to a number of people that were involved back in the day, and so I still don't have a great idea or story of how ads and Tandy came together. So either, this ads had a bunch of these systems laying around, and they went to Tandy and said, hey, we can sell you some of these systems. You can rebadge them as Tandys and sell them. Or was Don French, and John Roach going out, I think probably looking for some really high-end systems that they could sell. They found the System 70 in a magazine. They got in touch with ads. And what they ended up doing is buying 50 of these systems from ads, System 70s, and they rebranded them as Tandy 10s. This is one of the few pictures that was available of a Tandy 10 up until a few years ago. Pretty grainy. Nobody really knows what it looks like. This is one of the marketing pictures available back in the day, showing the full system with the full, Centronics type printer. Um, so what happened was, we're talking about 78 now. So there was a lot of turmoil happened at Tandy Radio Shack in 1978. The biggest thing that happened was Charles Tandy passed away. And Charles Tandy was one of the big drivers of having a separate Tandy Computers division. Also, what happened, John Shirley, who was working at, I'm not exactly sure, somewhere else at Radio Shack, became head of Radio Shack computer merchandising. And John Shirley was a big Radio Shack guy. So he wanted basically to do all of their computer business through Radio Shack. So through all this turmoil, Charles Tandy passed away. So Charles Ratliff, who was Don French's boss, reporting to Charles Tandy, he left the company. Don French ended up leaving the company. So all of the key people behind Tandy Computers basically either died or left the company. And then you had people like John Shirley coming in and Bernie Appel, who were staunch Radio Shack guys. And they said, no, we're going to do this. This is going to be all Radio Shack. This is not going to be a Tandy concern. So they closed down the Tandy Computer Store in Fort Worth. And they had a lot of Tandy 10s still left over. So they ended up selling the remaining Tandy 10s at Radio Shack Computer Centers. And I found this ad from Florida for the new Radio Shack Computer Center was opening. And you can see they have a Tandy 10 there, as well as the Model 1 system and all, the Radio Shack computer systems. So they basically sold them until they sold out the 50 that they had made. And then about that time, we're talking about 79, that's when the TRS-80 Model 2 came about. And the TRS-80 Model 2 was a superior machine to the Tandy 10. So there was no reason to keep, the Tandy 10 around. It just went away when they sold the last one. And you can see one of the reasons for it was the price, right? So the price here they had was $9,000. That was actually a discount because when the Tandy 10 was first released, it was around $10,000. Let's just talk a little bit about the specifications of the Tandy 10 then, okay? So it was a business computer system. It had an 8080 microprocessor, 48K of memory, a standard 80 by 24 character screen. What's interesting though is the default screen was black letters on a white screen. So kind of like with the Xerox Star at the time, it was more like a piece of paper. You had a white screen with black letters, but you could change that. It had the dual disk drives, which are interesting. They're 8-inch floppy drives, but they are double-sided single density, which is kind of unusual. They were about 500K per disk. Essentially it ran a version of CPM software at the time. So when you're using it, really it's like using any other CPM system. Yeah, the price basically $10,000, right? We're not going to talk about it much, but there was actually another Tandy system, business system that they sold called the Tandy 150. And now that I've obtained a Tandy 10, this is like my holy grail computer to try and find one of these. But apparently they only built 6 of these. So I don't think we're actually ever going to find a Tandy 150 in the future. But if you ever have a lead on one, let me know. This one actually was a really nice system. This was a 16-bit system. It had a 10 megabyte hard drive. This is about the only picture that we have of what it looked like. And these were sold, like I said, they had 6 of them. I think they said they sold, the people I talked to said they sold either 3 or 4 total. And the other 2, they ended up handing off to some computer reseller. And who knows what happened to them at the time.
Any idea what CPU it used?
It is a 16-bit, I forget what it was now. It was a computer automation naked mini, basically, board. It was a single board 16-bit system at the time. I'm not that familiar with it, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the Model 2 came out. We talked about that. So let's go back and talk about the Tandy 10 that I've acquired. So if I just go back up to here. So like I said, I got into the hobby 10 years ago. There were no Tandy 10s available. There are no pictures of any modern Tandy 10s, only the old literature pictures. So I've been looking for Tandy 10 for 10 years. And a few related systems have come up over the past few years. One was the System 70, became available. It was in Canada. It was on an auction site. I forget the site now at the time. This was about maybe 5 years ago or so. You can see it's a really beat up system. It was missing all the cards, so it's completely non-functional. If the power supply was gone, I had other pictures of the rear. Even the legs on the right are not the original legs, so it really was a basket case system. I think I put some low bid offers in, never heard anything from them. I don't know what happened to the system, where it is. If anybody bought it, let me know. Then a few years ago, this Tandy 10 terminal showed up on eBay, just the terminal that you see here, a complete basket case. If there are pictures of it opened up, the internals are just completely disassembled and trashed. And the guy wanted $30,000 for it. I put in a bid, maybe a couple $100, never heard anything. I don't know who ended up getting this, whether it was sold, whether he trashed it, who knows. But that is about it until in the past year, a full Tandy 10 became available. I have some pictures here. Second, go to that. And I'm going to show the Tandy 10 I have here behind me, but I think it's a good idea just to show some of the photos, to show some of the
Definitely.
details, and then we'll look at it. All right, so this is how the Tandy 10 arrived to me in a crate. It was purchased from a seller in California. I'm in New York, so I had to have it shipped across the country. And obviously, the only way to ship a computer of this size safely and securely, really a unicorn, one-of-a-kind type computer, was to have it fully crated like this. It cost me about $1,000 just to have it crated, and shipped. But it was worth it for a one-of-a-kind computer.
At least they kept this side up.
And I have actually had the full unboxing video on YouTube somewhere. You can find it on my YouTube channel if you want to watch that. There it is. That's the video. We'll
We'll get your links so we can put them in the show notes. Yep.
So this is the Tandy 10 terminal. You can see it's pretty much complete. Just a few of the keys are broken. You can see the enter key there is a little disoriented, but again, very nice system. All the buttons are there. Everything is there working. I'm not sure about working. I haven't turned it on yet, but in the internals, everything looks complete. These are the disk drives. Again, I mentioned these are MemorX floppy drives. A little nice anecdote about these is that their frames are made out of plastic. So one of the Tandy computer managers, Joe Sigler, who I know, told me, when they ship these Tandy 10s out to customers, invariably they had to send out replacement floppy drives, 2 replacement floppy drives, because these would get damaged in shipping because the frames were just cheap plastic.
Too brittle.
Yeah, he said on almost every unit they had to send out new floppy drives. This is a computer from the side. You'll notice the stack of manuals and software. That was one of the really big selling points of this computer, because as we know, without the software in a system like this, that's like, maybe only one left in the world. If you don't have the software, you're not going to be able to run it. And this machine came with a stack of 8-inch floppies of Tandy 10 software. It was an amazing find. All the manuals, the technical manual is there as well. This is a picture of the back of the machine, and we'll walk around the machine. I'll show you more of that. You can see the cards in there. When I saw this picture of the card cage, I saw it had the 9 cards. That's the default complement of cards for a Tandy 10. I saw that it was complete. It was just amazing when I saw that. Again, a better picture of the card cage. You can see there are a lot of spare slots. So they had a lot of, ambitions on expandability for this computer in the future. It never happened though. Close-up picture of the card cage. You can see the power supply underneath the card cage. So one of the reasons I have not turned this computer on yet is because I found basically a mouse nest inside that power supply. So I need to remove that power supply, fully clean it up, test it on the bench before I ever even think about applying power to the computer. And another picture, the outside, Tandy 10, you can see it's all complete. A few more pictures of the card cage. What's really interesting about the card cage, you can see that, right? Each of the card sockets, they're hand wired to create the bus between the card sockets.
It's
they're
all
using-
different.
They're using standard board mount connectors, through-hole board mount connectors, that hand wiring them. Wow.
Right.
But that was
What you want to
common.
bet? It's all different pinouts between the sockets. Right?
Hopefully not.
I
No,
hope,
no, of course it is.
I hope all of those wires are properly connected.
Right, right.
Well, I have some technical documentation, it's high level. There are no detailed schematics or specifications on this. So if those
Oh
wires
yeah.
are
More like a
complete,
design document rather than the.
Eyeball says all of these sockets are purpose wired for something. So
Yeah.
you need to know what goes there.
so
Knowledge.
let's talk about the boards. So there are 9 boards in there. The floppy controller circuitry is on 2 boards. So this is called the drive controller B board, and this is the drive controller C board. And you can see the 250-pin connectors there on the left. So what's obvious about these boards, you notice the chips, it's all discrete TTL logic. So there's no FDC chip in this computer. All the logic is implemented, in TTL logic, which is pretty fascinating. This is one of the memory boards. So there are 3 memory boards, 16K each. These are 1K RAM chips. So how many hundreds of RAM chips are in this computer? Finding one that goes wrong will probably be a fun time. This is second memory board. They each have different jumper settings. Hopefully those jumper settings were not changed by anyone because there's no documentation on what they should be set to. Memory board. This is the MPU, basically the CPU board. So you can see the 8080 processor there in the upper right with the red border there. There's a ROM chip on there as well, which we have not read yet. This is what's called the printer buffer board. So the printer connects to this board. Again, just pretty much TTL logic. This is the screen buffer board. This is used by the terminal. This is called the video generator board, and this connects directly to the CRT. So there is a chip there. I've looked up this chip. I am not sure what it does. If anybody is a chip fanatic and can figure out what this chip is, a 7828 Motorola chip, SCM 3770.
That'd be the
Probably,
manufacture date, 28th week of 1978. The number's the top one. So
yeah,
it's
okay.
SCM something.
3770L. I haven't found anything on the internet about it. It's probably some video driver related chip. Not sure. All right, and that's it for the boards. So what I'm going to try to do here now is switch over to my iPhone and we'll take a walk around. So let me first switch to this camera. I'm going to stop sharing. There's my Zoom window.
Stream viewer Solstice says, what sort of power supply is needed to provide power to all of these cards? It's like a linear power supply.
It looks like some sort of linear power supply, yes. All right, let's see if I can connect to my camera. Yeah, please, yeah, I'm not reading any of the questions, so if you do see questions come across.
I see they had a nice taper on the bus fingers. Is that like they're connecting the outer fingers first as you push it in for whatever reason? What's that?
Yeah, that's pretty wild, right? Yeah, I
I've never
saw that.
seen that. Yeah.
All right, let's try this. I want to try and treat this like if I'm at a VCF and we're walking around and you guys can ask
Yeah,
questions.
perfect. Shaky cam. Love it. It's working.
So there's the control panel of the Tandy 10. So there's a volume button here, a knob here, brightness, an online, offline switch. Not sure what that does. There's a printer controller here, button on and off the printer. There's the main power switch. There's a key. Oh, hold on, I got disconnected. Let me try to connect again to my phone. Yep, there we are. It does take a key, but it looks like a generic cabinet key. I'm sure I'm not going to have a problem finding one of those. Some LEDs.
Is
Again, the
it
keys
me
are
or
pretty
is
much.
he not highlighted?
Can you see what I'm showing?
On Twitch, all I've got's the folder. Something's not changing.
Did I stop? I think I stopped sharing.
Well, now I see you okay on top, but in the main view,
So is anybody else seeing my iPhone? Showing Tandy 10 or not?
there you go.
Got it? Okay. So yeah, the keys are in really good shape, except for a few that, may be broken. So the screen has some of that modeling that you'll see in the old CRT, so I'm gonna have to deal with that, I'm sure. These are those wonderful 8-inch floppy drives, plastic frame drives. Talked about the floppy drive on the right, the door is seized, so we'll have to do work on that. The left one opens and closes. So there was a panel here that I don't have. That's one of the few pieces of the computer that's missing. There was a panel that would close up here, and there's a little chain there on the left that would connect to the panel would hinge downward. So it is complete. There's some issues like this Formica top, whatever it is coming up. That needs to be glued down. But it's in really nice condition, which that's all that really matters. There's a little bit of blue paint on the top. Somebody spray painted it sometime in the past. But physically, the computer is in good shape. It's all there. It's all plastic, all heavy duty plastic. The only thing that's metal frame-wise is this leg over here. And you can see it's got some rust on it, so that's going to need to be repainted. So just this right side here is metal. Everything else is plastic. In the back, that's where you power it up. You see some good-sized fans there to cool off the card cage. There are the 9 cards with these really nifty card release levers, and the wiring, and the power supply down there with the mouse nest in it, and a bunch of the connective wiring there, and the fans, some transformers in there. But pretty much complete. Over here I have the manuals and all the software, Tandy 10 reference manual, all of the Peachtree accounting system software that came with this, accounts receivable, accounts payable, system ledger, payroll. Most important thing that we found was this, the ADOS disk. So this is the operating system. I was able to image this and recover it. We have archives in the Model 2 archive now, so we'll have it forever with the version of Tandy Basic on it. And so one great benefit of having that disk is, I'm just gonna disconnect from the iPhone now, is that my good friend George and Peter Phillips, who they designed and they maintained the TRS-80 GP emulator, actually created a machine version Tandy 10 emulator. So I can just share that and show everyone. So if you get the latest version of TRS-80 GP, you can make believe you're in a Tandy 10. So you can see it's the white screen with the black lettering. It's CPM, right? You do a DIR, you see your standard CPM commands like pip, and there's a basic in there. And
Are you sharing your screen? So I'm just seeing your camera right now.
Oh yeah, now we're stuck on your face.
Yeah, I'm seeing the screen.
Zoom
Are
has
you?
the screen, but
Yep.
Twitch has the camera.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're diverging somehow.
yeah.
All
Try
right.
resharing that again.
Yeah, let's see.
So down at the bottom, you should have a share, and then you can pick a screen or a window share.
Yeah, it's showing shared and it's highlighted on mine.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I keep seeing your camera though.
Yeah, but Zoom has the right screen. Something's weird between the two.
okay. Well, I
Oh.
mean, it's,
Mark,
Yeah, OBS is just capturing the Zoom screen, so my Zoom's not getting it. So
okay. Well, it's not a lot to see. It's just a look.
Yeah.
Think of being a CPM command line on a white screen with black letters. That's all I
Gotcha.
really have to say there. Okay. Um, what else did I have to share? Well, I think that's about it. Definitely, I'm going to take any questions. I did create a Facebook Tandy 10 group. I'm hoping to find, if there are other Tandy 10s still out there. I have a hard time believing that there will be, but you never know. They only made 50 of them. I have one of them here. I've seen the remains of at least one somewhere. The reason I'm sitting here in my garage is because I don't have any room for it in my house. That's one of the big problems of a computer like this, right? It takes up the space of a small Volkswagen. So I think a lot of them were recycled, probably all of them, except for this one. Maybe we're lucky and there's a few more out there. I hope so. And that's one of the reasons I created the Facebook group, to get the word out there, and hopefully we'll find a few more. And maybe if we're really lucky, we'll find a Tandy 150, but I won't hold my breath.
odds are even slimmer.
Yeah. That's all I had. So if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, my point of advice, don't let your SO know you used her good iron to stick the top back down on the Tandy 10.
Yeah, we'll figure that one out eventually.
Well, a little heat. Yeah, it'll work.
Well,
Oh, there's your screen. We have your screen now. Show us the commands.
Oh, we do? Yeah, there it is.
How you see it?
I switched to the gallery view, and it's Zoom. First world problems.
Yeah, this was amazing. Once I recovered the ADOS diskette and I shared it with those guys, they went right to work creating an emulator for it. So without
So our
that,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say, without that disk, we wouldn't have the emulator. So we're very fortunate we have the software.
So our CoCo floppy wizard David Ladd wants to know: did they use a grease weasel, or what did they use to do the capture?
So I have a imaging setup in my workshop. I use IMD on an old Windows 95 system.
Oh, okay.
Image disk, yeah. It's old school, yeah.
Right.
Old school.
Yeah. For Model 2 discs, Model 2s are
Mhm.
my passion, and the 8-inch discs. And I haven't had a disc that I couldn't read. I have a Cat Weasel card too for really difficult discs. Yeah.
I'm looking through to see if I see any direct questions. Mostly not, other than the power supply.
Mhm.
Mostly are just comments. 8-inch
Yeah.
double density, double side but single density. Wayne Campbell said, "Thanks, Peter. Wasn't certain when I heard it." These are hard sectored, right? It says it uses 128 byte sector. Tandy 10 can't format disks. You have to byte
No,
format it.
they're soft sector.
Oh, they're soft sector. Okay.
Yep. They're CPM. They're single density CPM discs.
CPM.
Basically.
Okay.
Single density, double sided. So are the sides like a single seen as a single disc, or are the sides seen as two discs?
The sides are seen as a single disc. Yeah.
Okay, so A is going to be both side A and side B, so it's going to be a 550K diskette right in there, not
Right.
okay. Not like some of the things we had to do with the CoCo.
Well, Peter, you have
Okay.
lots of time left. We still got another 10, 15 minutes. But if you're done, you're done. We understand.
Yeah, I can show you my wall of TRS-80 Model 2s over there.
Oh,
So
So
those
I-
are just my extras in my storage over there. Most of my work happens downstairs in my workshop.
You shouldn't have that many extras. Get in touch.
I
Right.
would like one.
To a good home.
Right.
So seriously though, Peter, you have a timeline. I mean, we all have real lives, so it's not our jobs, but you have a timeline on maybe when you get that the Tandy 10 power supply cleaned up? Maybe a chance to fire it up
Sometime this year.
sometime this year. Okay.
That's good.
Like I said,
Yeah.
the reason I took on this year and last year, this virtual tech fest thing is because on the CoCo Nation, we've been trying to expand our show repertoire. And I've had a desire to do a tech segment. So I've done a few of these Tandy tech shows. So I allow a couple hours, not to overload people, usually Tuesday night, but it can be flexible. But if you wanted to show it off and do a live stream and get it recorded for posterity, I'd be willing to do that. So
Yeah, sure. My goal is for next year to bring it to probably VCF East and Tandy Assembly.
Uh-huh.
The biggest thing is trying to get it around because it's extremely heavy, even for me and my son.
yes, you'd have to ship it. So
Well,
I don't know if you know who
I've-
Mark Siegel is, but he asked who wrote the basic.
Not sure.
Does it seem to be a Microsoft basic or early
I
Microsoft?
saw a variant of Dartmouth Basic or extension of
Ah.
Dartmouth Basic in there somewhere. So that goes
Okay.
way back.
If we run it, let's see if we get any information.
And our growers asks schematics in the reference manual, and you said there's no
Oh, that one's
schematics. It's
Microsoft. Okay.
just like a design document.
It's just high level of like it tells you what the cards are and where they go, but it doesn't go into any detail of how the cards work.
So
Yeah.
Peter Phillips says basic Rev 5 adds basic system 70, copyright 1977 by Microsoft.
Yep, I have it up on the screen if anybody can
Yeah,
still see it.
that's
Okay. Oh, there you go. So it is
Where did I
Microsoft
see
basic.
I saw Dartmouth earlier because that was the basic I first learned. So I saw that. That must have been the first machine.
So,
Oh, yeah.
Peter, you're saying that this is basically CPM. What's the big distinction between like CPM 2.2 and the version that this is running?
I don't know. Peter Phillips, maybe he is more familiar with the software than I am because he was playing with it.
He is on the stream. So Peter, we're asking you, what's the difference? Hey, CPM isn't that big. You could probably take it apart in a few days and figure it out.
Yeah, I mean they wrote the BIOS to be very basically so that the only thing you had to rewrite for a
Specific hardware.
yeah, for the you only wrote the BIOS for the hardware, and that was like right after the bootloader, it loaded the BIOS in, and then once the BIOS is loaded in, everything else was written on top of that, and for all intents and purposes, only needed to be assembled for the new system, not like ported at any low level.
Abstraction. What a concept.
Yeah, like I was saying, the biggest part, hardest part is going to be coming up with a way of being able to get this thing in the bed of my pickup truck. I have a full-size pickup truck, so I can bring it, but getting it into the bed safely.
Right? You're gonna need that lift gate.
Tommy
So
lives.
Peter
Last-
Phillips says, not CPM expert, but it looks mostly like CPM 2.0, but not exactly.
Yeah, and given that it's mostly all plastic, I'm a little worried about it traveling
Yeah.
too much. They're really good suspension.
We have a request to add Peter to the Zoom call. I send him the credentials if he wants, but we are getting down on time here. We've only got 5-10 minutes. And again, I'd love to have you back on and do a CoCo tech. Have you on for a couple hours.
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Well, any other questions from the viewing audience or from the panel here?
Not that you're gonna cover in 5 minutes. So.
Well, okay, well, that gives Peter some homework, so he'll have some more questions in 6 months or so.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating period in Tandy Radio Shack history. I think I'm just
Oh yeah,
it's so
it's the
interesting,
beginning.
Is
It's
that
like
catalog?
the-
Is that
Go ahead.
catalog available anywhere? Because that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
It
you
might
can
be
find
on the Radio Shack catalog site, maybe.
it's available for the PDF to download. Just Google Tandy Computers Catalog 1978 and you should find it.
Thanks.
Well, you have some good comments in here. You can go back and watch these videos. They're on the Glenside YouTube channel as well as the CoCo Nation. And you should be able to replay the comments and see what people are saying. But okay, you have some suggestions on how to get it to Tandy Assembly, including a lift for your pickup truck, lift gate, and some casters.
Yeah,
Right.
some soft tire, air tire type casters.
You got to have the steel frame with the bungee cords that the computer's suspended on.
John Elliott says, much thanks to Pete for showing off the Tandy 10. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, very nice.
Yep.
Beautiful.
I'm very much looking forward to being able to see this thing in person one of these years.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to make it happen somehow. So, what's the point, right? What's the point just having it socked away in my garage? No.
No, shove that sucker off.
Yeah, like just bring it someplace where your closest 150 friends will want to see it too.
Maybe someday I'll donate it to a museum. I don't know. I've heard some horror stories about museums lately. We've all heard, right? Where
Yes, living computer museum. It's very upsetting.
I mean, if I had donated it there and that happened, I'd be heartbroken. Who knows where it would end up, So as long as I have it, I'm going to try and share it and enjoy it, because that's the whole fun of this hobby. It's like sharing, talking to others and having fun, and hopefully a few more will show up too. You never know.
I've presented, I got a table at a couple of the VCFs on the West Coast, and I go to the Tandy, the CoCo Fest, and also there's another one here on the West Coast now. It's kind of the interim computer festival. And the most fun is just setting out your stuff and having people put their hands on it, try it, have numerous people walk by, go, your dad had a computer just like that when he was young.
Right.
And it's just a lot of fun showing people stuff and sharing it with everybody. So a lot of joy in that.
I try to get to exhibit at the VCF East every year, and I'm just talking the whole day. By the end of the day, my mouth is just hurting.
Yep. Just wears you out.
Yeah, you're exhausted by the end of the day, but it's a good exhaustion.
Yeah, it is. Okay, well, I guess if we have no more questions, and look like we have any from the stream. Yeah, unfortunately, Restream's not giving me any total numbers. So I don't know how many people are watching, but we probably had more than typical, probably around 30, be my guess. But anyway, I'm going to call this a wrap, and we will turn this over to Mark B so he can get the stream ready for 3 hours of the CoCo Nation. And then we have 3 more hours after that of more of these type of 1-hour presentations. Well, there's a 2-hour presentation on disk imaging. So anyway, keep posting the schedule. Thank you much, and thank you for everybody that showed up. And thank you all, the crew that's here to help me out, keep me on the straight and narrow. And this is going to be a wrap for now. So everybody say bye.